Good morning to you all. This is the third lecture in the series, and as you can see, it has been titled as Yin and Yang of Exponential Technology. It's Yang and Yin have a connotation. Yin is bad and Yang is good. So it is good and bad and good of exponential technology. You know, as someone has said, I only think of the future because that is where I'm going to spend the rest of my life. So one keeps on thinking about the future and what kind of future you would have. And then you come across a book like this. And this book is by Lord Martin Rees. He was Sir when the book was written, the President of Royal Society. And the title of the book is Our Final Hour, a scientist warning how terror, error, and environmental disaster threaten humankind's future in this century on Earth and beyond. It's a very striking book. Gets you worried. But I got even more worried when I actually met him. You can see him here. And I was the president of Indian National Science Academy. And we have this lecture called Blackett Memorial Lecture. And the title of his lecture was, The Last Century, Will the Civilization Survive the 21st Century? You know, we came out sweating, as a matter of fact, the kind of picture that he actually projected. And what were his concerns? If you see the global risks interconnectedness, the World Economic Forum's 2015 report, you see here the risk. Failure of climate change adaptation, biodiversity loss, extreme weather events, man-made environmental catastrophes, water crisis, food crisis, natural catastrophe, etc. That is what he was talking about, by the way. But right here in this corner, there is this misuse of technologies connected with cyber attacks, data fraud, etc. This is 2015. If you go to 2019, which has just come out, by the way, is very interesting. You suddenly find it has moved from a corner and it is moving to the center. And what is this? The adverse consequences of technological advances, okay, which can lead to unemployment or underemployment, cyber attacks, data fraud, critical information infrastructure, profound social instability, which can lead to large-scale involuntary migration, and so on and so forth. So can you just see the topic today basically is about this, because this is the yin part of the exponential technology, so as to say, the consequences. And this lecture actually talks about that part. The challenge, Rishi, like what we were discussing. The challenge is that human moves linearly, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Technology moves exponentially, 4, 8, 16, 32. And that is a challenge. And of course, the governments move even slower, as you know. So there is this big challenge about keeping pace with the change, I think, which we are all confronted with. Now, what we have to realize that exponential technology can bring about radical transformation of humanity. Although humans move linearly, there can be sort of a radical transformation. Looking at the technology per se, we have this Queen Elizabeth Prize for Engineering, $1.3 million US. And this is given to radically transformative technology. Since we talk about transformation, this is considered as equivalent to Nobel Prize in Engineering. And this year, I was also a member of the selection committee. If you go through the winners, the first winner was the Internet and the web. Robert Kahn, Winter Cerf, and Louis Pouzin for fundamental architecture of the Internet. Tim Berners, the World Wide Web vastly extending use of internet, and Mark Anderson, the Mosaic browser. And of course, the global impact is what we have today, our digital world. Okay? But if you look at what we selected this year, you can see the winners here. And the winner was, of course, the global positioning system. And these were the 4 gentlemen who would be in September. The Queen Elizabeth herself will be giving them the award in Buckingham Palace. And as you can see, GPS has made all the difference. I don't have to explain to you as to what its importance is. The reason I'm showing you both is that the kind of transformational change that these exponential technologies bring are absolutely phenomenal, and they're all very positive, so as to say. The important point is that how technology has moved onto an exponential now. If you look at telegraphs, messages per year, this is how they went. Then fixed line telephone accounts, they rose like this. But when you talk about mobile phone, it is exponential. Like a country like India, you know, today we have 1.4 billion mobiles, basically. 10 years ago, we didn't even have 10 million. I mean, you can just see the kind of difference. That is the exponential part. If you look at light source performance, incandescent moves so slowly, then came fluorescent, but light emitting diodes, you can see exponential. In fact, by the way, light emitting diode was one of the candidates for an award. 3D printing was one of them. GPS was one of them. I don't mind disclosing this now because that's not a secret anymore. What I want to emphasize is the exponential part of the technology. The other important thing is that if you look at the global connectivity, first we had fixed line telephones, so these are places, went to 1 billion. Then we started connecting people with people through mobiles, so became exponential. And now super exponential, because digital society now will connect everything to everything. So we are talking about now 1 billion to 5 billion to 50 billion. So this is the exponential part. So my title is Yin and Yang of Exponential Technology. So I'm trying to explain the exponential part of it. Now to me, I always simplify things, you know, like in 2 or 3 lines. So these are going to be the major basic changes. First is digitalization. Second is democratization, which Elizabeth and I and all of us were discussing before we came. And third is decarbonization. All right. That is going to dictate the 21st century. Now, in case of digitalization, if you look at the exponential technologies, I'm going to focus on yin and yang of 10 exponential technologies. Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, robotics process automation, virtual augmented or mixed reality, sensors, 3D printing, more internet cloud, big data analytics, open data, blockchain, and of course, advanced genomics. Each of these has yin and yang. The first is the long-standing exponential Moore's law, which has been valid for so long, number of transistors doubling roughly every year, and this curve is very well known, and this is the exponential growth in terms of the number of transistors. But while the technology, what happens is also the costs actually dramatically drop down. Like data storage, Cradle's law, hard disk, dollar per bit down 50% every 18 months. Digital imaging, Henry's law, pixels per dollar down 59% per year. Network capacity 50% every 9 months. So you can quite clearly see how the fall is becoming sharper and sharper and sharper and sharper. And that's a good news for developing countries, particularly like India, because the costs come down so rapidly and so much. And of course, then you have advanced genomics, for example. You can see the cost per genome was $100 million, and it has fallen to less than $1,000. And this is where the Craig Venters of this world basically came in and made basically a difference. The point I'm trying to make is that things which are moving linearly suddenly can have an exponential fall when you have a technological breakthrough, and one is always looking for such technological breakthrough. You can see now the kind of changes, like sensors. If you see, it's a 1,000-fold change in 7 years, by the way, not 1,000%. Like the number has gone up by 1,000, cost has come down by 1,000, the power consumption has come down by 1,000, the physical size has gone down by 1,000. All right. So we are talking about really rapid changes. Now, what happens? The sensor-based device is increasing exponentially. The number of sensors increasing exponentially. Amount of data that each sensor generates increasing exponentially. The connections between, again, increasing exponentially. So the result is a combinatorial explosion. So we are used to talking about petabyte, exabyte, zettabyte, etc. We are talking about now not just big data, but this is broadcast data or ecto data. I think we are moving in a very, very sort of different zone today. Data is the new oil, as people say, and information is the new currency. And you can see that ExxonMobil was number 1, GE was number 2, and so on, so forth, Citigroup, BP, etc. Some of them have vanished, and as you can see, 2016 scenario is this, where ExxonMobil is here, basically from number 1, and I don't have the 2018 data, by the way, but ExxonMobil doesn't exist there. Basically, all the top 5 are all the Apples and Alphabets and Microsoft, Amazons, and Facebooks of this world. Now the issue is data is new oil, but the challenge is in handling the volume, the velocity, the variety, the veracity. So if you just see what happened last 60 seconds, this is 10:45. So between 10:44 to 10:45, 60 seconds, you'll see this is what happened. Basically, you know, the Google had 3.8 million searches, 41.6 million messages sent, and so on and so forth. So the rapidity of this entire process is really phenomenal. If you look at the volume, for example, 40 zettabytes of data will be created by 2020. 6 billion people now have cell phones, and so on and so forth. So petabytes, exabytes of data. Then, of course, the velocity. You can quite clearly see 1 terabyte New York Stock Exchange captures during each trading sessions. Modern cars have 100 sensors now capturing data. So massive amount of streaming data. And then, of course, the variety. I mean, you have them in all forms, whether it is your YouTube, whether it is your Facebook, whether it is your tweets, and so on and so forth. But the last most important point is the velocity, the trustworthiness of data, because where does it originate, how authentic it is, how much can we trust it, how complete it is, and the integrity issue. I think these are becoming sort of critical issues. AI is new electricity, is what Andrew Ng said. And he said meaningfully, the industrial revolution freed humanity from much repetitive physical drudgery. AI will free humanity from repetitive mental drudgery. I think this, of course, makes sense. Now, AI, and there is a lot to discuss about AI. In fact, this full lecture could have been on AI. But it is rather interesting that the question was asked, when will the future arrive? And this is a report World Economic Forum did in 2015. It's very interesting. They say the first AI machine on a corporate board of directors will come by 2025. Okay, and there is a 45% respondents said. Actually, what had happened was that this had already happened. The report came out in 2015, but probably they just didn't realize that a Hong Kong VC firm had appointed AI to board of directors, this deep knowledge ventures, validating investment tool for advancing life sciences. And it's interesting now, the latest news is such appointments have been made with this member of the board of directors, the AI machine, having voting rights as a matter of fact. All right? So this is how far we are moving. And then, of course, AlphaGo win, you are already aware how it beat Lee Sedol, and it's the most difficult game. Now, what is very important, is that this happened 10 years before it was expected to happen. 10 years before. What is also interesting is that in game 2, the Mu 37 that was made, experts say that there is 1 in 10,000 chance that a human will make it. All right? I think that is very sort of significant. And as you can see from AlphaGo to AlphaGo 0, so from here, as you can quite see the AIO rating, which is a measure of the relative skill levels of players in competitive game, show how AlphaGo has become progressively stronger as we have sort of moved around. There are many nuances about self-learning, the way it has been done without the assistance of a human, etc. I have not spent time on that. All that I want to give you is the pace of change that is taking place. And of course, we talk about a lot of applications, information retrieval, pattern recognition, audience targeting, personalization, etc., social media mining, and so on. And of course, more applications are coming out, including face recognition, and I will have something to say about this generating arts, etc. I mean, the reach of this technology is absolutely incredible. But then, there are some wise people who are very concerned about it. Steve Wozniak, the Apple co-founder, said the future is scary and very bad for people. Stephen Hawking is no more, but said full artificial intelligence could spell the end of the human race. Bill Gates said, I don't understand why some people are not concerned. And Elon Musk said AI is a demon that is potentially more dangerous than nuclear weapons. So there are deep concerns about AI. AI and the ethical dilemma, for example, your autonomous car, when a decision has to be made, will it protect myself, protect pedestrians, protect my passages, or should we be leaving these decisions to AI? I think that's an ethical dilemma, and that's something the world is discussing. We briefly talked about China. China's digital surveillance systems, as you all must have read or heard, and I experienced it while I was there in China to deliver a talk just a couple of months ago. These are becoming very widespread. And it's very interesting that the AI-powered surveillance software, the world's most valuable AI startup is a Chinese company, which sells times facial recognition technology in action, as you can see. And China wants to use AI-powered surveillance to help manage society. There are yin and yang of this technology that we can further deep dive into. There are, of course, myths about advanced AI. One is super intelligence by 2100 is inevitable, and facts, some say, it may happen in decades, centuries, or never. AI experts disagree, and we simply don't know. Second is only Luddites worry about AI. No, many top all AI researchers are also concerned. Third is AI turning evil or AI turning conscious. No, AI turning competent with goals misaligned with ours. This is the fact of the matter. Robots are the main concern. No, misaligned intelligence is the main concern. It needs no body, only an internet connection. Then AI can't control humans. No, intelligence enables control. We control tigers by being smarter and so on. So there is nothing that we cannot do. And therefore, how do we ensure that we control AI and not the other way around? So there is a lot of deep discussion on this, a lot of research. So the research is centering around developing techniques for AI system to learn what humans prefer from observing our behavior, keeping the interests of super intelligent systems aligned with human values, making AI systems explain their decisions to humans, keeping AI-driven weapons under meaningful human control, and AI for all is a good goal, but ethical AI has to become a way of life. And how do we do that? These are the 5 grand challenges that one is facing. This is interesting, by the way. I must give you a background. India Science Guru touts AI Tech as a force for good. This is a report in a Japanese newspaper, by the way. And Vashelka says inclusive innovation can boost education opportunity. This was the main topic of the interview, by the way. But the headline was this: And it says the robots appear by etc. appears, and the future under AI will not be as bleak as many people think, according to this report appears. So I'll tell you the background of this. On 15th of February in Tokyo, there was this meeting about the Sustainable Development Goals, because Japan is very concerned that we are not moving fast enough on Sustainable Development Goals. And when they hold G20, this is going to be the main agenda. And there, as a sub-part of it, there was a discussion on disruptive inclusive innovation as a way of enhancing this. And I was the keynote speaker, the opening speaker. So, therefore, somebody said we want to interview on inclusive innovation. And then I gave the interview on inclusive innovation. But then it spread over to other areas, and one of them was AI. And he said in Japan there is a big concern. So I said, no, we in India. So what are you doing in India? So I told them what we are doing. For example, there is an AI sort of startup technology platform for educational technology, basically, which helps you basically do sort of individual learning, so as to say, because our learning capacities are really different. It is individualized. And we have a big plan. We have taken a stake, 72% stake. We are investing $180 million. And our idea is to take it to 1 million children every year, free, by the way, so that they have the benefit. And as you know, in India, the digital transformation is taking place. So I said, we are going to use it for the good. I just mentioned that. And then he gave this as a headline and explained to me that I wanted to make sure that it catches the eye, the interview catches the eye. So I had to put AI in the headline because he said in Japan there's a sort of a big discussion. The reason I projected this is to show the concern around the world about AI, its future, but more importantly, the role of AI in your future and in determining our future. Digitalization impact, of course, on industry landscape, insurance, e-commerce, etc., as you can see, is sort of massive. It is moving. For example, 2020 blockchain distributed ledger technology will be adopted by 20% of trade, and so on and so forth. That is very clear. It's pushing transformation, big data analytics, sensors, actuators, etc. And the kind of leveraging that we are going to have, including the experience, enhancing productivity, new business models, and I referred to some of it before. Actually, post this is the so-called dark mode. People are predicting distributed ledgers and blockchains everywhere. AI will completely reimagine the future of work. The reality will be mixed, virtual, augmented, and quantum computing will make anything possible. And the prediction is AI will be everywhere, assisting, augmenting, and doing autonomous work. These are the future indications. If you look at blockchain, there's a new kid on the block, practically pervading the whole field. Incidentally, intellectual property. There is a startup called InventTrust in the US. I happen to be on its advisory board, which is looking at intellectual property rights and blockchain. And intellectual property rights, in a sense, not patents that are registered formally, but a lot of intellectual property doesn't get just registered. Looking at that particular part and how that can be moved forward, it's fascinating. So there is a new trust paradigm. Trust 1.0 was we trusted people. Then we depended upon trust 2.0 institutions, but now trust 3.0 is going to be technology, because it will use technology to underwrite uncertainty for transactions, things like sort of blockchain. So that is the transformation that is taking place. Let me move to the next one, that is democratization. And I mean by democratization of access. Now, of course, we know that extreme affordability creates democratization of access. Indian geofication. Now people call it geofication because geo has transformed. And you will remember, those of you who attended the last lecture, before geo and after geo, life has changed. Like a 4G Voltafone was $300, now it is $23. And of course, effectively zero, because you give 1,500 rupees and get them back after 3 years. So it's just data per GB cost, as you can see, it has just plummeted. And the voice expenditure is zero. Now you can just quite clearly imagine, with this, the kind of democratization of access that actually sort of takes place, and I gave more details last time. And therefore, despite income inequality, which is 1,000:1, you have now access equality. So that's wonderful. The second is democratization of access through open access technology. Open source software, open data, open content, open knowledge, open source development, open innovation, research, business models, APIs, and cloud. It's interesting, GitHub, for example, was acquired by Microsoft, as you know, for $8 billion. I was on the Microsoft External Research Advisory Board for 5 years. And I remember year 2007 when I joined them. And at that time, it was like Linux versus Windows. So kill Linux, that was the kind of discussion. And I still remember, I used to say it is not Linux or Windows, it is Linux and Windows, basically, And from there, in 3 years' time, Microsoft actually created an open source academy. And later on, last year, year before last, they acquired sort of a GitHub. You can quite clearly see the way the change has actually taken place. The other issue about democratization is this. I've read a fantastic interview by President Obama. I was really stunned, whether it was any exponential technology that one talked about, and I highly recommend you to sort of read that. This was 2016 interview, where a number of things have been talked about, including AI, for example. And his view was, let 1,000 flowers bloom, let it grow first, and then we'll bring in controls. But one of the things that he talked about, and I want to highlight that when I talk about democratization of access. So he says there, and I'm quoting him, I think my directive to my national security team is don't worry as much yet about machines taking over the world. Worry about the capacity of either non-state actors or hostile actors to penetrate systems. And in that sense, it is not conceptually different than a lot of cybersecurity work we are doing. It just means that we're going to have to be better because those who might deploy these systems are going to be a lot better now. You can just quite clearly see what he means. And this non-state actor thing is a very sort of interesting thing because once that technology is in their hands, what does it mean? So it is nice to say AI for all, X for all, Y for all, but actually it is in the hands of these non-state actors. So there are a number of reports on this. I want to bring to your notice the additive manufacturing in 2014 report, powerful enabler but also disruptive threat, security 2014. And it shows how, for example, combination of technologies, whether it is additive manufacturing, AI, and so on and so forth, can pose the kind of threats practically in our everyday life. I mean, you don't have to go and have a license for a gun. I mean, you can just go and create it in your garage, downloading software and the rest of it. And the cost of these 3D printing machines have come down like crazy, basically. Now, the important part here is what do we do when such things happen? I don't have time to discuss CRISPR, for example, genetic tool that is creating a sort of, amazing, giving amazing results. But what do you do when you have CRISPR in the hand of those who want to launch biological war? What do you do when you are in a position actually to create a virus which was extinct and recreate and so on and so forth, and to spread. So these are real issues as a matter of fact. So the other issue is, of course, about access to jobs. When you look at exponential, are we heading for exponential technology-led jobless growth? Is a question that we have to ask. So retrenchment, retraining, redefining, relearning, repositioning becomes important. In fact, lifelong learning now becomes even more important, because whatever you as students have learned, as a matter of fact, within 3 years, you'll be out of date, so as to say. So how do you basically do that? This is a very nice report, Technology at Work, version 2.0, Martin's School, which showed the risk of jobs being replaced by emerging technology. Ethiopia 85%, China 77%, India 69%, US 47%. This is true, of course, if you are technology ready. That means US 47% means 47%. But in India, 69% will mean 55%. So choice is between 2 out of 3 jobs or 1 out of 2 jobs. Both are actually sort of bad news. So this is a concern. Then, what I want to emphasize is that technology job growth will continue, because more people will be needed to create new technology first. Second, more people needed to maintain new emerging technology, whether it is 3D printing, advanced robotics, IoT, and so on. Then more people required to assist other people in using new technology. And new technology requires new labor forms to design, test, implement, refine new technology, such as smart automated intelligent systems and so on. In fact, there is a list of 55 new jobs that are actually coming up. But what this means is that our educational systems will have to be now geared to creating these. I won't have time in this lecture to sort of dwell on this, but there's a paper that I have. If you go to my website, www.mashilkar.com, then you'll find this paper there, Exponential Technology Industry 4.0 and Future of Job. Of course, I've been specific to India, but lots of things that I've said there are actually applicable elsewhere also. In this, you will also find the paper which is called Technology 2050. I wrote it for sort of Washington Globe, basically. And there, these other threads that I talked about, the CRISPR and what can actually happen and what kind of controls will be required are also there. So please do visit it when you can to find all my lectures, all my talks, everything that I do is available on that. So you can see that, but more specifically on this. A lot of young people here, so I want to assure you, you have to become from job seekers to job makers. So tinkering in maker spaces, fab labs, and Elizabeth, that's why I love what you are doing. And the important part is makers can crowdsource funding, outsource manufacturing, list products on Amazon.com, use social media to spread word. So you have now new opportunities thanks to the I would say the young part of the exponential technology. Now, the last part is, of course, decarbonization, and there are sort of big challenges. We want not only low carbon economy, no carbon economy, carbon neutral smart city, carbon neutral home, and so on, and exponential technology to play a big role. And it's interesting, Roshi and I were having a talk during this morning, and he talked to me about the massive power requirement that you have to run these big data centers and so on and so forth. So exponential technology will, of course, reduce the carbon footprint, but at the same time, it will also increase the carbon footprint. This itself is a 1-hour lecture, so I'm not going to do it. I'll just sort of mention that and move forward. I gave a talk last year about Science 2.0, how these new technologies are going to create Science 2.0. In that talk, I also talked about Education 3.0, how that is going to change. And you will remember I also talked about Industry 4.0, so I'm not going to talk about that. But I'd like to end by asking as to what will be society be, something that we should be all concerned about for future society. And I can just say that as far as exponential technology is concerned, uh, this is a warning that one has to take very seriously. What Stephen Hawking said is that humans who are limited by slow biological evolution couldn't compete and would be superseded. The basic issue is that curve that I showed, no? Technology going exponentially, and we going actually linearly. So social behaviors change slowly. Policy evolutions take a long time. Basically, in India, for example, we wanted to introduce GST, goods and service tax, and it took 14 years of discussion before it was adopted. Maybe in Australia I would do it in India, but it does take time. Governments move slowly, but technology is rising exponentially. So I listed 6 questions that are appearing, by the way, most frequently. I studied quite a lot, and here is the list. One is loss of human control on our life. Robots that surpass humans in strength, speed, agility, endurance, decision making. The second concern is, will exponential technology take away both brawn and brain jobs? We will be working for robots rather than with robots. Third is killer robots, militarization of robots. For example, drones with AI. Then robo emotions, will they have empathy? Will goal-seeking intelligent machines seek the same goals as we do? Will their goals evolve in a negative direction? That's another concern. And everybody knows everything, the drones are watching. All right? So these are the concerns in the society 3.0 at the moment. I'd like to end by talking about, when we talk about society, we talk about social connections, and then there is social media. I am on social media, by the way. Only I use Twitter, just as Elizabeth did. We retweet, we will form a mutual admiration society. And we, both of us, I watched her and mine, both of us only spread good news with regard to the university, about the future, and so on and so forth. I'll tell you through a personal experience, because as I said, all my lectures are not just textbook lectures, but from book of my own life. So, John, here is an interesting example. One morning, Rishi, I got up and saw this. Can you see? These are Indian policemen eating after rains in this fashion. So it was painful. So I tweeted. My Twitter handle is @Ramesh. I said, touch my heart. They deserve better. They are giving everything for our beloved nation. Amazing. It had more than 100,000 views within a day, as a matter of fact. The first reaction came within 5 minutes from Professor Anil Gupta. He is the Executive Vice Chairman of National Innovation Foundation, of which I am Chairman. Fantastic. I call him Modern Gandhi, by the way. He said, police deserve basic respect. Yes, they don't complain. Should we wait till they complain? They certainly deserve better. Eating on road like this shows how little we care. Sorry, policeman. That came from his heart. And he copied it to Director General of Police, some testing. His response within 5 minutes, by the way, was interesting. Agreed. Society and system should ensure dignity of cops who work hard for safety and security. Idea of mobile kitchens for such situations is under experimentation in Gujarat. Interesting in Gujarat, it was under experimentation for a number of years. And the amazing thing was that after this, can you just imagine, the number of ideas that poured in on how to solve that problem was anybody's job. But most importantly, within 3 months, those mobile kitchens were in operation. Yes. All right? So this is social. So social media can do social. There is no question about it. But then there is other side. Those of you who have time and inclination, please read this book. It is frightening. It says the weaponization of social media. This is by Singer and Brooking. And it shows how you have this big challenge. Because the idea of military or a war previously was, you go and capture a physical territory, right? No more so. Because now you can capture the mental territory, all right? By spreading whatever fake news, or you can your own ideologies or whatever, etc. Basically. And this book actually describes the dynamics of that in an incredible way. So it is interesting that here I showed to you the yang part of it, and here I'm showing you the yin part of it. And this yin and yang, yin and yang, yin and yang actually goes through everything. My greatest worry is the future society. This is alone together, as you can quite clearly see. All right? Is this a society we want? And therefore, I'm going to surprise you by putting a sort of a picture which is very close to my heart. Finally, George, it comes down to values. It comes down to everybody. Not alone together, but together. Okay? And look at this picture. What is this lady doing? She's a very poor lady. Look at her son. And this poor lady is sharing something with the world. That's the value system. That is together. Not only human and human, but even nature. Nature is God. When we talk about loss of biodiversity, and Lord Martin is worries about, we don't look at nature as God. So this together concept, I mean the idea is the big idea, and that has to actually matter. So let me end on a very positive note. People already, my reputation is that I'm a dangerous optimist, so let me end on a positive note. This is a book, The Future is Better Than You Think, Abundance by Peter Diamandis, one of our greatest thought leaders. And actually he gives a very optimistic picture of the future, basically. Considering the yang of it, not the yin of it. But to get rid of that yin, what we require is not just abundance of resource, but abundance of empathy. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Mashaka, for a fascinating talk again. Do you have any comments or questions?
Yeah.
Yeah. This quote came to me, and I was wondering, looking at that innovation, GPS innovation, and the role related carriers and so on. And I was wondering, is it necessary to have that experience and development of heuristics to go with it, to make innovations which are required in the current time? Younger people with their new experience, are they capable of doing such innovations at the younger stage rather than going to the later stage, the old experience they get?
In fact, I personally believe in two definitions of innovators. The first definition is innovator is one who does not know it cannot be done. The oldies, like me, always think it can't be done, not the young people. Okay? Their job is to make impossible possible is what they think. The second is, innovator is one who sees what everybody else sees, but thinks of what nobody else thinks. As we grow old, basically, we stop seeing, I mean, we have a unidimensional view of things. Whereas for these young people, nothing is sort of impossible. And therefore, I think the future belongs to the young, if you really ask me. And they will be the ones who generate actually the idea. The basic, however, is not just the generation of an idea. How do you move from idea to practice, idea to the field, how do you do the translation? And that requires the ecosystem. So, how do we sort of move on? I'll give you an Indian example. Since we talk about the young. There is someone whose name is Harshvardhan Zala. You know, I chair a number of things in innovation. One of them is Marico Innovation Foundation. And we give awards by every year. So last year I started awards for startups. Because that is where some of the best ideas are coming. So we gave award to one Harshvardhan Zala. What has he done? He has actually developed drones which are able to spot landmines and defuse them. This. Okay? And he has US patents on this. The Indian Army has been interested. He has got inquiries from South Korea. You know what is his age? 14. So we actually interviewed him on the stage. And he has already created a startup company. So we said, who is the CEO of the company? He said, of course, me. And one of the members of board of directors, he said, of course, my dad and mom. They have the confidence. A 14-year-old. So I think it is a question of, I always say, talent, technology, and trust. We have the talent. They have the technology. The issue is that of the trust, investing. So the Gujarat government has given him close to $1 million now. Trust. His own parents, basically, they are poor. He comes from poor family. But they invested, borrowed money, as a matter of fact, to help him create a product. So, answer to your question is that yes, the young will do it, provided talent, technology, and trust, they go together. Trust by not only your own parents, the society, the government. And wherever that has happened, we have succeeded. Silicon Valleys would not have come up if this was not the case. Any other?
I was just reflecting on your empathy, because I think that is really, it actually has to go to the front of all this conversation about data, about the change in technology, and how does that, with people who are creating it, how do we bring that forward into the rethinking of education, rethinking about technology with empathy? It seems like when we teach, we focus on math, we focus on physics, we focus on the facts, but empathy is a fact of life. And it's that tension again about making sure that we deliver an education that is well-founded, but how can we make sure that we don't take the heart out of it? I think about that a lot in our engineering education, how we made sure that we introduced empathy into our design criteria, into how we think about people who are using. Is that something that the educators are actually putting the heart back into engineering as it were?
You are spot on. In fact, it's a global challenge, as a matter of fact. And it starts from there. You cannot, to a 25-year-old, hey, from tomorrow you'll be empathetic. You can't. It has to be sort of up there. And I think that is the biggest challenge of, because technology is taking over everything, including if you look at education 2025, 2030, people are talking about. Where again, there is a democratization.